Okay, in the last class, I have been discussed about the question bank. Next is C library functions. Basically C library functions are the built-in functions in C that are grouped and placed at the common place called the library. Already there have been predefined things. Such functions are used to perform some specific operations. They are meant for the some special operations. Already we have been seen that printf and scanf. For example, printf is a library function used to print on the console. The library functions are created by the designer of a compiler. It has been already when the compiler has been designed, the library functions have been designed there only. Okay, already we have been used printf and scanf. They are the when you have been using that functions, first you have to include that function, then you can use that functions. Just simply revoke that, just call the by name of the function name. Printf is a function name. Simply printf is a function name. There should be some arguments. There are predefined arguments are there within your open bracket and close bracket, double quotations. Okay, within double quotations you have to define some characters. That character has that is a passing characters. Then there is a predefined things are there. Syntax for that you have to use that in the same manner, same fashion only. Okay, that is the library function. All C standard library functions are defined inside the different header files saved with the extension .h. Okay, header file is saved with the std.ioh. H stands for the header file. H stands for the header file. Okay, all the C standard library functions are defined inside the different header files saved with the extension that is .h. H stands for the header file, indicating header file. When we need to include these header files in our program to make use of the library function defined in such a header file. Already each header file have a different functions. Each header file having different functions. Some function have been grouped, combined in some header file. Okay, for example, to use a library function such as printf, scanf, we need to include stdio.h in our program, which is a header file that contains all the library function regarding standard input output. Okay, already we are using these things. Okay, to make use of the scanf and printf are the functions. Scanf and printf are the functions. They are the two different functions. To use this function, first you have to include the first itself starting hash include is a header file. To include header file, include hash include stdio.h in our program. Which header file that contains all the library functions. This is a library function regarding standard input output. Here printf is an output, scanf is for the input. Scanf, that function is meant for defined for the this function is used for the this function is defined for the inputting a data. This printf is meant for used for the output of the data, given information, given data. Either it can be numerical or a character we can display on a console. Okay, here the most of the used header files in a given the following table. Already we have been used some header files. Basically, maximum first it is on a default header file. We have to be all the programs, this header file have been present, that is stdio.h is a default header file. Almost maximum when we use a printf and scanf, this is a mandatory, we have to include this header file. This is a standard input output header file. It contains all the library functions regarding standard input output. Okay, to make a data read and data write. Read means input, reading data from the console to the a processor. We have to use this. First, we have to include this. Then we can use that standard function, library functions. Library functions in this print, that is input is a scanf, output is a printf. Console IO, that is con IO.h. It is a console input output header file. Already we have been used this console input output, that is to make a clear screen. To make a clear screen, we have been used that. Okay. Next is string.h. This string.h contains all the string related library functions like get, gets, get and put character, get a string, put a string. All these things will be under the string.h. When you use these things, these commands, these library functions, first we have to be insert header file. Then only we can use these functions. These are the puts and getters. Get is the input, put is the output. Simply get the data, get the string from the console to the processor, or put the string that is an output the string to the output console. Get and put, get ch, get string. Next is std lib.h. This stdlib.h is this header file contains all the general library functions, like we have the different things. We'll see that next. Only we have been used when you use this exit in the lab. I think probably we have been used this function, that is exit from the loop, exit from the console. It has been used. To use this function, first we have to use stdlib.h, standard library.h, general library.h. Next is math.h. I think probably we have been used this header file, that is function, square root, power. Okay, these are the things mathematical operation. Okay, square root, like the different functions are there. This header file contains all the math operation related function like sqrt is square root, power to the power of power of that, etc. can be used in math.h. Time.h, this header file contains all the time related functions, to display time, to copy a time, all this, to change a time, all these things will be there in the time related time.h. Next is the ctype.h, that is the header file contains all the character handling functions. Okay, single character handling functions. So we'll go into, you have to use this ctype.h. Okay, these are the different things there in the total different 12 different header files are there. Okay, next is signal.h, all signal handling functions and defined in this header file. Set jump, in this jump, all the file contain that things. Okay, this is about the thing called the header files. What is importance? Already I think probably we have been used maximum things. Std.h, string will go into the next thing. Math.h, con.ioh. Okay, all these things we have been used. Next topic is the recursion. What is meant by recursion? Why this recursion is useful by when we call a functions that repetitive operations, when that is there, then we'll go for the concept called the recursion in C. Recursion is the process which comes into existing when the function call a copy itself to work on a smaller problem. Any function calls itself is called recursion. In the function itself, call as a function, that is called the recursion. Okay. Any function which calls itself is called a recursion function, and such function calls are called recursion call. Okay, we'll go an example, then we'll come to know that what is meant by this. That is a function which calls itself is called a recursion. Just calling a function itself, nothing more than a recursion. Recursion invokes several number of recursive calls. Several number of, it can be iterative only, simply. Okay. However, it is important to impose a termination condition of recursion. There should be some condition to be used for the terminating a recursion. Recursion code is a shortened than the iterative code. However, it is difficult to understand. Okay, it is nothing but the same thing is the repetitive operation only. Same for the repetitive operation only. But there is some process is there. We need to understand that process when we will use a recursion. Okay, recursion cannot be applied to all the problems. We cannot use this recursion thing for the all the problem, but it is some useful for the task that can be defined in terms of the smaller subtask. For example, recursion may be applied to the sorting, searching, and traversal problems. Okay, generally in the sorting and searching things, we're going to use a recursion. Generally, iterative solutions are more efficient than recursion. Iterative, same operation, repetitive. Just simply call the function and back, and then we can call iterative. Several times we can call the same function, but there is some difference is there in the recursion. Okay, recursion, since the function call is always overhead, extra burden. When we calling a function itself overhead, when we use a recursion, it is a more overhead. Okay, any problem that can be solved recursively can also be solved iteratively. Okay, you can also by using the iteration auto, also you can solve that same concept, same thing. However, some problems are best suitable to be solved by the recursion. For example, toner of a Hanoi and Fibonacci series factorial finding. Generally, we'll use in the Fibonacci series generation and in factorial generation, we'll use this concept called recursion. Okay, some example in the programming concept, they will use find a factorial by using the recursion. Fibonacci series, generate a Fibonacci series by using the recursion method. They will ask like that. Just a wait. Okay, we'll go for one example called recursion. Recursion is used to calculate the factorial of a number. Here, the recursion is used to calculate a factorial of a number. This is one general program. The concept is used is called by using the recursion. It is one of the important program. Generally, in the exam point of view, it is an important recursion. By using the recursion, calculate a factorial of a given number. Okay, first here int fact, it is a declaration part. First is the return type is integer, and it is a fact is a function name, and argument are in the terms of the integer. This is an argument passing by using the integer type. It is indicating, that is declaration part. Declaration part lo first return type followed by the function name within the open and close brackets, argument type, data type of the arguments. That is argument data type is integer. Okay, first int main, then declare here integer n and f. We are defined two variables. The variable n and f are the type of the integer, Next, printf is enter the number whose factorial you want to be calculate. Simply, and it is displays on a screen. Then scanf %d ampersand n, and whatever the data, whatever entered data is stored in the, if you have been entered a value 5, this 5 will store onto the n. Then you are calling a function, by using the fact n. You are passing the value. It is call by value. You are passing this 5 to the here. The 5 is present in the n. N is being passed to the here. Okay, it will be stored on this variable. Okay, here two variable have declared. One is called n and second is called the f. F has been stored within that factorial of a number. It calculated after calculation, that number result is stored into the f. Okay, when we have called factorial, it will move to the here, that fact. It is the first is the return type, then factorial name, and argument data type is integer and n. Their name can be same or different. We can use the same name, or here we can use the different name also. In place of n, we can use x, y, z, anything. We can define that like that. Okay, here we have been used same name only, same argument name only. Here the value 5 has been passed to the in this integer type. They say here first initially condition, if n double equal to 0, if the n is 0, automatically return value is 0. That factorial of 0 is 0 only. For that, return 0. Return means it will return to the fact. This fact is written back to the here. This 0 has been stored into the f. That is the meaning of this entire thing. Else if n equal to 1, return 1. Else, one more condition, else return. It is called, the entire thing is called the recursion operation. Here you are calling the function, subfunction, that is in the subfunction you are calling once again subfunction of this one. That means n is multiplied, return the value, n is 5, n is the 5. You are calling the subfunction fact in the return type. It is called to the call inside the subfunction. It calls the fact n minus 1. N minus 1 is, it calls the fact 4. Same fact 4. Fact 4 is has to calculated. Factorial 4 has to be calculated. Before that calculation, go to the fact 3, fact 2, fact 1. Till get fact 1 will be the operation will be repeated. Generally, finally, you need to get this result. That is first 5. I will show one more table. From that table, we will understand the thing called the how it has been operated. That is 5 multiplied by 4. It is multiplied by 2 multiplied by 1, the operation of factorial of this. First 1 is multiplied by 2, 2 is multiplied by 3, 3 is this return value, return to the 6, return back, like that. It is be returning all the value finally. Recursive call, it is called the, this statement is called the recursive call. It is in the main program itself, you are calling a subprogram. In the subprogram, once again you are calling that subprogram itself repetitively. It is the operation of that. That is n multiply, n is a 5, multiplied factorial of 4, then factorial of 3, factorial of 2, factorial of 1. Like that it will be operated. Finally, the result will be stored into the 120 is stored into the first is multiplied 1 into 2, it is 2, return 2, then 2 into 3, 6, 6 into 4, 12, 12, 24, 24 into 5. First is 6, 6 into 6, 4 is 24, 24 into 5, 120. Okay, this is the result. This result has to return, this return single value, 120 has to return to the the factorial. This factorial will store back to the here. That factorial value will be displayed on a screen.
Sir, factorial for loop to cheppara sir.
Factorial for loop ఇది అయిపోయినాక చెప్తాను. ఇది ఇంకా కాన్సెప్ట్ ఉంది కొంచెం, ఇది అయిపోయినాక చెప్తాను. Okay, here the thing called we can understand the above problem of the recursion method called by the figure given below. First ఏం చేస్తుంది, it to start with an return. First అదేమన్నది, the definition is return fact, that is return n into fact n minus 1. That means n is the 5, then factorial of n minus 1. N minus 1 is 4. Then in this factorial itself, you are calling the then n minus 1 is 4. I have called back to the fact 4. Fact 4 is fact 4 into the fact 4 into the fact 3. That is return a value 4 into fact 3. Then return a value 3 into fact 2. Then return a value 2 into fact 1. Return a value fact it is 0. That is first initially return value 1. It starts with here. Return a value. Return to the here. For this, it will go to the. It returns to the subprogram first. Return 2. Then this 2 has to return to the. It has already calculated. Fact 2 have been already calculated. That is 2. This 2 is multiplied by 3. This 6 has been returned to the above. Okay. This 6, that is fact 3 is the 6. I need to calculate a fact 4. For that, this 3 is multiplied with the 4. That is 3 into that 4 into 3. It is the 24. This 24 is returned back to the this one. That is fact 4. Fact 4 is 24 and is multiplied by the 5. This 5 into 24 is equal to 120. This 120 is returning. Okay. First ఏం చేస్తుంది, రిటర్న్ చేయాలన్నప్పుడు n into the formula is n into n multiplied by fact n minus 1. Okay, here 5 into fact n minus 1 is 5 return, that is 5 into 5 multiplied by fact n minus 1 is 4. Still it is not been calculated. Factorial 4 has been not calculated. It will call the, fact 4 will call the subprogram once again. That means it will call to the, for this return 4 multiplied by fact n minus 1. N minus 1 is n is 4. N minus 1 is 3. That is factorial of 3. Still it has been not calculated. Factorial 3 also not been calculated. It will further move to the 3 multiplied by fact 2. Still it has been not factorial 2 also not been calculated. It is not been, that condition is not true. Okay, for that reason, then it will move to the 2 into fact 1 then still it is not been calculated. Fact 1 also not been calculated. That condition, if fact 1 factorial 1 equal to 1 only, return 1. First it will return to the return 1. If it is gets either factorial 0 or factorial 1, factorial 0, if it is 1, 0 comes, automatically return 1. Next value is 2 in, that is 1 into fact 0. If this comes, automatically 0 comes, I have to return a 1 back to the, where we have to return, this 1 has to return to the 1, this 1 has to return to the factorial 1. It will go in this order. This way, just return 1 to the, where I have to return, this has been called fact 1 has been called. That means I have to return the value back to the this fact. 1 has been written, 1 into 2, it will be stored. This 2 has to return to the factorial 2. That 2 into 3, this value is returned to the fact 3. This 3, that is, this is an return 3 is an 6. 6 into 4, this 24 has to return to the factorial 4. This 24 is multiplied with the 5. This result, that whatever the result, will return to the main program. That is, first is returning value is 1, then returning value is 2, next returning value is 6, next returning value is 24. This 24 is multiplied by the 5, that entire result is 120. 120 is returned to the main program. Okay, this is a recursion program. Okay, if you understand, well and good. Otherwise, we'll explain these things in the one more time in the next class. It is one of the important concept in C language. Okay. If you have any doubts, you can ask.